primarily taking your influence from a personal situation in your life, or are you prioritizing, I guess, trying to develop that element of surprise? Is there one that's prioritized over the other? I know there's probably some sort of mix going on, but I guess what's prioritized more when you're developing a hero's journey? Is it those personal experiences that you've had in your life, or is it something that's more, I guess, direct to the craft of developing a screenplay?
Well, speaking for me, it's two things. One, a hero's journey story is a very specific thing with archetypal beats that play out every single time in a hero's journey. So there are many books on this topic. You can Google it. There's so many articles on what a hero's journey is and what each beat of that is. And just speaking for me, it's always the personal. It's always what I'm learning, and that's what drives me as a writer. Is kind of speaking to the times, but also speaking to just my times. I don't know if Rochee, yours is a different experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. I have a show about a Black superhero who feels invisible, so she becomes invisible in the pilot for the first time, right? And that's kind of her arc, is trying to figure out how to navigate that. But that's tied to my personal narrative as a Black woman, right? So I think there is something about being able to pull from yourself, because I think it does make it, I think we are really interesting people, right? Like, writers generally are very interesting people. And the more you can pull yourself from yourself and imbue your characters with some of your qualities, because I think all of my characters, when I look at them really closely, I'm like, that's a little bit of me, right? But I also think what I said in the class about characters is the hero's journey should really be tied to like what the contradiction of that character, right? So, we talk about Nurse Jackie, a nurse who's addicted to pills, exercising contradiction. So her hero's journey is going to be really like rooted in that contradiction. And so however you're crafting your character, they have to have that contradiction that makes them interesting and compelling. And that hero's journey should also be tied back to that contradiction, if that makes any sense.
I just dropped a link in the group chat about the hero's journey.
Right.
Also, when I talk about,
sorry.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say briefly, when I talk about, writing about myself, I never write autobiographically. It's not like Lena Dunham in Girls, or even like a Insecure, where it's like, this is a self-insert character. What I mean by that is tracking what's happening emotionally for me and then translating that into the experience of like a mom in 1971. How do you translate your personal experience to that of someone else? So not necessarily just copying and pasting your life onto the page, but it's a translation.
Tiffany?
Hi, thank you so much for your time. I have two questions. One, I struggle a lot with just the progression of time in writing. I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel the need that if I'm going from one day to the next, I have to tell what they did in the morning, what they did in the night before they get to the next day. Or I feel like I have to go do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the whole week, which I know is not the right way to write. So when I'm going back and like doing a draft, I will take some of that out. But I wanted to know if there's any tips on doing that faster, like just how to progress time in the story. That's my first question. Second one is, Rochee, a couple of sessions ago, you mentioned being in a writer's group. And I just wanted to know what qualities you look for in the other writers when you're building a writer's group, and whether or not that matters.
So I'll answer the writer's group question first. Yeah, I'm still in a writer's group, and I will be in one until the day I die. I could win an Oscar and still be in a writer's group. I think they're incredibly invaluable. I think for me, what I looked for was people who are serious. I'm a very ambitious person. I don't fuck around. So I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You talking? Because I don't have time. And I give you 3 times and then I'm over it and I move on. I have a book club. I'm the same way. The rule is you miss 3 meetings, you're out of the book club. I'm just very serious. So I feel like you have to find people who are serious. And I love you. We'll go to brunch, but you're not going to be in my book club or my writer's group. And I think that's important, like to set, be clear about the expectations, to find people who are serious and like-minded, because we rise together, right? Like, as Charles was saying, what Issa was alluding to is like, there's like classes of in this business, right? There's a class, like there's Lena and the Donald Glover and the Issa, their class, and the people before them, it's Shonda's and the Mara's, their class. Like you rise with the people, you know, that are around you. So find people who are serious, find people who maybe have good taste. Ooh, let me tell you, they may not be good writers necessarily, but do they have good taste? And that means what it means to you, right? Because you don't want somebody who are like, this show is basic and they think it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. Please don't be my writer's group. Yeah, I think those are the two things that I think matter.
And I'm not in a writer's group, but what I can apply to this question is how you get notes. And I have a multi-tiered sort of system. Like my first round will be, okay, I'm gonna send this to one writer who's working at my level, one writer who's working at an upper level, and one civilian who's not in the industry at all. And I'll use that at every round of getting notes. Like I wanna get notes from someone who is not in the industry, who doesn't like have this sort of point of view, and see what they think just as an audience member. And you get different sorts of notes from people that are lower level, upper level, like different experiences. You may want to also tier it by gender, race, class as well, if you want to, you know, mix it up with those perspectives. But yeah, that's what I do when I want to get notes.
That was you had another question, right? The first question was?
The passage of time.
Oh.
Like she tends to write the full day of the characters. How can she allow time to progress?
I have the opposite problem of you, which is I'm like, time, what? You know, just focus on the story. But in your issue of like, oh, you have to track what they're doing, I think it's okay to map that out for your own mind and then go back later and then take it out. But it sounds like for you, you may have like that linear, like I need to know that information. So maybe you could even just like be writing that out and then take it out. But when you're a staffed writer, don't submit that to the showrunner because they're gonna be like, sis, why did you give me this 90-page script about eating toast? But if it helps your mind, it helps your mind. That's what I would say to that.
All right, Jay Middleton.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this gem of a class. My question is, when writing a period piece, like how much has to be accurate and then how much can be like exaggerated or made up?
You don't want Starbucks cups, right? In the period. Right? So you want to keep things grounded to some extent, but I think you can play. I think the rules don't apply to a lot of things if you establish what the rules are at the beginning, that you're breaking the rules, right? Like, I think there is a world where a show exists that's a period piece where they have cell phones, right? Because if that's the rules of the world, you can create whatever you want. So that question to me is more, it's more about like, what kind of show are you trying to create, right? And now if you're talking about a piece that's supposed to be strictly period, and are you, then I think the question might be, maybe I'm interpreting wrong, but like, do you have to be historically accurate?
Yeah.
No, because a lot of shows about historical period, like if you saw the Madam C.J. Walker miniseries on Netflix, they played with timelines, they added characters. You can play with things like that within reason, because a lot of people are not familiar with the mythology or the actual history. So they're not gonna be like, that happened in 1922. Like, you know what I mean? They're just gonna be like, oh, she did what? Like, that's that. So I think there's room to play.
Got it.
I completely agree with everything Rochee just said. And I love this question because I'm, you know, writing a period piece and I have written a few. So it's something that I've had to wrestle with and am currently. It depends as well on like what your genre is. Like if you're doing like a Spike Lee's Malcolm X, that's a beloved figure. And so you want to, of course, respect the truth of what Malcolm X's life is. If he had Malcolm X becoming an astronaut, then people would be like, that's not what happened. It's maybe lit, but it's not what happened. Conversely, if you're doing something that's a little bit more like elevated and strange, like the Bob Dylan biopic where Kate Blanchett played Bob Dylan. You have to play with that structure was like jumping through time, and it was a little bit psychedelic and artsy. So if you want to do things that are like very out there, it's what Rochee said from the beginning, set up what the rules are.
Got it. Thank you.
Inglourious Bastards is a perfect example of a historical drama that was a reimagining of history. And I thought it was really well crafted. But you can do anything you want to do, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you guys good to go until 5:30? I mean, we have questions, but I just want to make sure that we're not
Well,
doing
5:30 got me nervous, but 2:30 our time.
Oh, I was like,
You were like 5:30.
Okay.
click.
All right, cool. Rico Whirl.
Hi guys, thanks for being here. Rochee, is awesome being in another class of yours, so thanks for being a part of this. I have a question. I am currently working on a police procedural, which seems especially crazy in these times. And then just in general with it being a procedural. So I was wondering if you had any experience in writing a procedural pilot, and if you had any sort of like comments on about using it to get staffed, like whether or not it limits the shows that one could potentially be staffed on.
So the answer to that question is it does limit it to procedurals typically, but it depends on the kind of procedural. Procedurals are kind of getting fancy now, right? There are procedurals that are a little edgier. There are procedurals that you get the sense that it has a procedural element, but because they're edgier, it could translate to cable work. But I will say that if drama writers, a lot of times their reps will tell them to have one procedural in their back pocket because they make you rich, not to be crass, but procedural writers make a lot of money. So I wish I could write a procedural because I would be very wealthy. I may not even be on this Zoom. I may be in space, but procedural writers it's a good lane to be in. I'm not gonna lie. So there is value in it. I will say that Scandal, I think, is a really good procedural, but it sneaks up on you because a lot of people don't recognize that it's a procedural. The pilot is a procedural pilot because the framework for that show was Scandal of the Week. And then the B story was her ridiculous personal life, right? So Scandal, I think, is Shauna knows how to write a pilot, is a really well-written procedural pilot that is non-traditional. And then what's the other one? The one that was on FX about the sheriff or whatever.
Sleepy Hollow.
Huh?
Prison Break?
Sleepy Hollow. Oh, sorry.
No, it was on FX.
Sleepy Hollow. Was it on that channel?
No, it's like a sheriff and it's an edgy procedural.
The bald-headed guy?
Huh?
The bald-headed guy?
No, that's The Shield.
That's the
okay.
Shield. It's not a procedural, but an amazing show that is overlooked by many.
Yeah.
We gotta talk about that offline, Rochee.
Yes, The Shield is incredible. But I will say for you, your best bet, if you want to maximize your opportunities, I would write a procedural that has edgy elements. So that way you can get on a procedural and then maybe get something on cable.
It also depends on what your aim is because, first of all, as you know, you're getting into spicy territory. So with whatever you write, you are going to be reflecting, I imagine, your political point of view, and that could hit the reader's point of view, or it could not. And so it depends on what your consideration is and what your angle on that is. It also depends on, are you trying to be staffed on a show like Blue Bloods? If that's the case, then you're writing a police show that is more favorable to the police point of view. If you're trying to be on a show that is a little bit more edgy, then maybe you want to put in something of what's going on now. But it's also kind of being aware that just by writing about this genre, you are writing about this moment that we're in. So I don't know if you can avoid talking about that.
The name of this show is Justified, someone said. Okay. I was like, I don't know. Okay. So what I named was ridiculous. Anyway, okay.
Oh, and one more
Okay.
thing. I do have experience writing a police procedural. It was actually my first script, and it was about a police brutality case in Texas where on the first day of work, a Black woman cop realizes that the cops are covering up this, police lynching essentially. And it's about her journey of realizing that she cannot change the side. And that script was controversial. I sent it to Shondaland, I sent it to different people, and they were like, "You're spicy. Good luck." it, it did get me a promotion within Shondaland, though. So it really depends on, like I said, that's a provocative topic. So if you want to be provocateur, just understand the consequences and benefits of being provocative.
Okay. Shavonna, keep it quick so we can at least get to one YouTube question before we leave. Okay.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this again. Rochee, you are amazing. I've attended all 4 of your courses and I'm just so excited. So my question, I'll try to be quick. Once the pilot is written, what would you recommend a new writer take for next steps to kind of get the pilot out there, to help them get rep, and to possibly get themselves into the Writers Guild of America and so on and so forth?
Well, this is what I'll say. If it's your first pilot, write another one. If it's your second pilot, write another one. And if it's your third pilot, write another one, right? Like, I think that I would continue to write because there are very few people who their first pilot is ready for the road and ready for the reveal. And I will also say this, a lot of people shoot their shot at the wrong time. So that question is about really your level of experience and how advanced you think your writing is. Because if you write a pilot and it's not that great, and you ask me to read it, and now this is what will happen. I will read it if we are really good friends. I read your pilot and it's not good. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you want to make sure that you are prepared. And that's why I say keep writing until you feel like, okay, I have sent this out to 10 people and they have said, and you can't be your cousins. It can't be 10 cousins. You can have 2 cousins in that mix, but you need to have people who are actually in the business, who understand the language of the business. And 8 of them, 7 of them, 6 of them say, this is good, then that means you're ready. And that's what happened with me with my pilot that I wrote. I kept rewriting it until I got endorsements from the industry, right? I got endorsements from people in the industry saying, oh, this is good. And that's either through contests, the Blacklist, or whatever, Austin Film Festival, things like that, actual stamps of approval. Once you get those stamps of approval, or you have people in the industry who are supervising producers, co-producers, whatever, staff writers saying this is good, then it's like, okay, now I can do something with it. So it's contests, it's the festivals that matter. It's if you have access to somebody who's already writing in the industry. Those are the general ways that you can break out if you're not already working in the industry. Charles?
Everything Rochee just said, for me, it was my 3rd script that got traction and got attention. My first 2 did some things like, got me assistant promotions, or people were like, cool, cool, cool. But it was the 3rd script that got me repped and staffed. And the way that happened for me wasn't, I didn't, submit to contests and things. That's a great thing to do. Everything Rochee said, do. For me, I am hard-headed, so I didn't do that. But I did submit it to people within the industry, and my endorsement was writing something that excited people, and to the degree that they were like, oh, I'm going to send this script to my reps. I'm going to send the script to this rep friend I have. I'm going to send the script to this showrunner. I'm going to help you get in. And so that was an example of writing something that, again, was personal to the degree that it hit people emotionally, and they were like, I have to help move this forward in some way. So as Rochee said, wait till you're ready for prime time, and you will know that. I think that hopefully you will know that for yourself, but if you don't, get a second opinion and, get that opinion from someone in the industry who's like, okay, cool. You are ready for staffing. You are ready for that next step.
I guess we have to go. This is the last class. How sad. I'm gonna miss everyone.
Can we do one YouTube question?
Yeah,
Since we didn't, please. Sorry, guys. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just gonna pick one. I'm sorry, y'all on YouTube. Should the main protagonist always be discontent, quote unquote, not happy with their world in the pilot? Can we make he or she content, then sort of flip that on its head later in the scene or in the next one?
Charles?
Okay, do you want me to reword it? Basically, I was just reading it. Basically, they want to know if the character should always be in conflict with the world throughout the pilot episode.
No, I don't think they have to be in conflict with the world or have, constantly be in dismay. And by the way, we love you, YouTube. Y'all have to go over there and see what the comments are on YouTube. They are living. They are getting their lives. No, they don't have to always be in dismay and be, having a bad time. If you watch a lot of comedy pilots, they're often having a great time. If you watch the pilot of Master of None or Insecure or Fleabag, there's conflicts. There's like, oh, I want this person or I want this job. I'm not getting it. I'm not successful in my career as I want to be. Or something embarrassing happens. But oftentimes it's scenes of them having fun with their friends. Something embarrassing happens, something funny happens. So in my experience of being an audience member and as a writer, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom, but there does have to be, again, conflict.
Yeah, I think, I'm wary of just like conflict for conflict's sake, but you need it. But it doesn't always have to be aggressive. It doesn't always have to be all consuming. It just needs to exist on some level and be interesting. And at varying degrees. So that's what I would say is, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Rochee. We're going to make some announcements before logging off, but woo!
And quickly, just a reminder, I'm willing to answer questions on Twitter. It's I_am_Rochee, RCHEE.
I was going to ask, how can people get in touch with you guys?
You can ask me questions on Twitter at Little Charles TV, all one word, Little Charles TV on Twitter.
All right. Thank you so much, Rochee, for this amazing series. I mean, people are saying that it's better than classes that they took in film school. So that speaks volumes about what you're offering, seriously. And thank you, Charles, for being such an awesome host today.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right, cool.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Black Film Space. Thank you, Londé and
Thank you, Rochee. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much.
This was so awesome. Such a great experience working with you. Exactly. And good luck on your move.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. So before you log off, please note that part 2 of our simulated writers room is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're working on the aftermath of the outline that we initially did last Sunday. You could come in at any point during the simulated writers room experience, but come through. We are also partnering with No Studios, which is founded by John Ridley, and he's going to be leading a conversation with Regina King on Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have to go to our Instagram page for directions on how to register and how to ask questions if you guys have any issues signing up for the event. We also have screenwriting workshops every Thursday this month. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify to hear either our podcasts or previous streams that we've had. Also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you want to join our Google group, you can email us at info@blackfilmspace.com. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and also regarding the filmmaking fund, we are currently going over applications, but we will respond to you guys as soon as possible. We're just still, going over some, but you guys, there were some great submissions. So yeah, that's it. Bye, y'all.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Be safe and corona free. Hi, my name's Londé Yusuf.
And my name is Reggie Williams.
And we're the co-founders of Black Film Space. Black Film Space is a grassroots organization dedicated to enhancing the skill sets of Black filmmakers and building a community of creatives. We host events such as screenwriting workshops, panels, mixers, and other events that are designed to support Black content creators.
In the next episode of the Black Film Space podcast, we interview Langston Kerman. Langston is a stand-up comedian, television writer, and actor. He has appeared on Insecure, written for the Oscars, and performed a 30-minute stand-up comedy special on Comedy Central. We talk with Langston about his joke writing process, auditioning for TV shows, what he's learned from writing in TV rooms, and much more. And now, on to our interview. All right, Langston, thank you so much for joining us on the Black Film Space podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm really excited about this interview because I've known you since you were doing stand-up comedy back in Boston when I was doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And I've just seen so much growth in your career. So, really excited to dive into this. So can you tell us how you got your start with stand-up comedy?
Like most of us, left college relatively aimless and I guess I had plans, or at least thought I had plans of like going into like some version of advertising, because you could kind of write and be funny if you were being creative advertising. And I immediately found that there were no jobs available for me in 2009. And so I moved back to my mom's house and was living in her basement, and had all the reasons to feel like shit didn't work the way I wanted it to. And so in my mind, I went to school. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I got good grades. I followed the rules more or less, and it didn't work. So I wanted to try something that felt completely my own and wasn't a part of sort of like the strategy that everybody had set up for us as like the theoretical path to success. And so stand-up comedy ended up being that thing. And like I had always wanted to do it. I didn't know how to do it, but I went to an open mic down the street from my house and I kept going, and yeah, just kept going from there. And then I got into grad school in Boston, which is how I ended up there, and where I met you, Reggie.
So, and you're from where?
I'm from Chicago originally, born and raised in Oak Park, Illinois, if that means anything to anybody.
I'm sure
it's
it
fake
would
Chicago.
People.
Well, people from Chicago have a lot of pride, so I'm sure
exactly.
somebody listening will love it.
For those prideful people, I understand it is fake Chicago. I am under no illusions, but for the people who don't know Chicago, I say that to ease the situation, but it's Oak Park, Illinois.
So would you recommend that people take up stand-up comedy, or
I don't want anybody to ever come into this ever again. There are too many of us to begin with. I'm hoping this quarantine makes way more people want to quit.
Why?
I just think it's an overcrowded field with a lot of people who aren't nearly as passionate about it as they often pretend to be. So it's an easy thing to sort of become a part of the community of stand-up comedy, because all you really have to do is keep showing up. There's not a vetting system in our world, right? Part of the vetting is just whether or not you're successful or not successful, but there's plenty of people who sort of linger in like a limbo of like just hanging around comedy and take up space. I say all that to say, like, if people want to do comedy, they absolutely should. I'm not actually saying like, don't you ever come to this, but I do think that like, what I would much more encourage is just find a creative path that feels more authentic and true to what you are. Like, I think sometimes people start in stand-up because there are no, because it's such an open space, but that's not actually what you want to do. What you want to do is write, or what you want to do is produce, or what you want to do is act. And you're using this as like a stepping stone towards that. And I think the only people who should be doing this are people who plan to, commit to it fully.
It sounds like this is an issue that a lot of industries have, where like things get democratized and everyone has access. So I guess I would ask, do you feel like people should take classes to learn how to do stand-up comedy or do improv? Do you feel like those people are better groomed to do stand-up?
I don't think classes can teach you anything. And Reggie, I'm sure you can weigh in on this a shit ton. Like, I actually think that that's one of the biggest scams in the world of stand-up comedy, is like somebody being like, I can teach you how to be funny on stage. Like, the best class you can have is going and bombing in front of strangers, and then learning from that and doing it all over again. But if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something you truly believe you were built to do, then hit some open mics, hit some shows, introduce yourself to people and start there.
So you don't think there's any value in those classes at all?
Personally, no, but
no? Okay.
maybe I'm a hater, and
no, keep it real. Tell us.
I don't want to be shitting on. Hey, everybody's got to hustle. I'm not mad at anybody teaching a class or providing a service to be able to like make a thing happen. But no, I think it's a complete scam.
Yeah, I actually took, before I did stand-up comedy, I did take a class. In my recollection of it, at the time, it didn't feel like a scam. It felt like I was getting some